most effective tactics available, is the quote-unquote measure of what's available to win more games as possible to rank up or get a prize, and often it's impossible to use something you like. You may be a Pokemon VGC player and have your favorite Pokemon being Mawile, but unable to use it in a major tournament, and that's something competitive players accept and understand. The fun of a competition is different than the fun of non-competitive gaming, which sometimes is different than just casual. But this distinction has been forgotten by a part of the Hoyoverse games community, most notably the Genshin and Star Rail community, and this has brought the games to a bizarre state, where they may not be dead, but the hype for them has been distorted in some ways. Even Star Rail, despite being only months old, already saw this happening. This is a gigantic problem, because before Fontaine was released, Genshin wasn't in a great state, many people burned out, and even characters awaited for 3 years got ignored and flopped very bad, such is the case of Byakuya. Not only he came out in said burnout period, and the release of Star Rail, but God also got heavily criticized by the meta community as underwhelming because the shield was bad. Despite the fact that he's an healer and the shield served to other purposes, but that's just one of the many cases, and the effects are just there to be seen. People burning out of the meta on one hand, and in the other people growing more and more toxic for the meta to be respected, such is the case of X-Slice, who dared having fun in a game with Linny during a showcase, to the point he had to apologize in a public post. What have we come to? Having fun seems prohibited because you gotta respect the meta, a concept that in these games does not exist, because potentially everything is meta. It only changes the amount of time and dedication you give to a character. And if you love a certain character, which is the point of a gacha, by the way, selling you a design to like, play it and enjoy your time and building them, it really sucked seeing people who fell in love with Dehi skipping her due to the pressure of the community and seeing comments making fun of people who wanted her because her kit sucks. This is truly degrading to the whole point of the game, and unfortunately this is just one example between many. I already talked about one other episode, but this bullying and brain rot has reached the voice actors as well for both games. One is the episode of the Chinese voice actress for Kokomi, which was harassed and threatened because her kid was considered bad. But as many of you know, Kokomi is now considered one of the best healers in the game, but I'll talk about this later, because her voice actress completely blocked the community, stating that she doesn't want to do anything to deal with the game at all except for her work as the voice for Kokomi. And this has recently happened to Sayu, the voice for both Sinnoh and Jing Yuan, has seen in his chat during a live stream some people asking to him, as if he has any power, why Jing Yuan was so, quote-unquote, bad or mid, as if it's his fault that they have stupid made-up standards and didn't get respected. Thankfully he's been smart enough to silence them, but this is wrong on many different levels, and for some reason normalized in the community. And I now fear for Monarch being the voice for Jingliu. If these fools blinded by their own rotting gray matter, go to her chat and start spamming her and ruin this for her because the character doesn't respect their made-up standards, it's gonna be a disgraceful display not only of the community, but of the games as well, despite of the outcome. And this is the same community that months ago made fun of the interview about excessive anxiety, which apparently was even a mistranslation, but I couldn't find any source on that, so take it with a grain of salt. But even so, how did that age? It aged that people from burned out and got bullied. Who would have guessed? Even mistranslations allegedly are right sometimes. This doesn't affect only the community, but affects the games as well. The meta, due to the lack of a leaderboard, loses the entire purpose of existing. Despite that, it's discussed in subjectivity, sets, power, almost as if the game are meant to be discussed like that, with personal preferences about characters and sets, and not being this competitive. Wow, unbelievable. Couldn't see that coming. But many people don't even understand how to use characters. People not leveling Dan Heng's basic attack, not leveling Ito's cow, thinking that Kokomi is bad, but guess what, she's the best healer in the game. With this misunderstandings, how can we make a consistent meta with no actual data in a ranked system? We have some data, but looking at it, it almost looks like the abyss changing favors variety of characters. Who could have guessed? Even Tartaglia, considered a mid character. Would you look at that, another misjudgment. Wow, crazy. very consistent, very reliable. Another kinda hilarious thing is, these meta people make arguments or bully people, mostly bully, about getting certain characters, then create tournaments, which is a good solution to not harass the others, but they then ban the characters they told you to pull. Hilarious. I would even understand it if the community wasn't so toxic about getting those same characters. What was even the point then of pulling for the meta if you can't even use it in tournaments? A famous example is Ayaka. Everyone will tell you to pull her, but is banned in some competitions. Wouldn't you preferred the character you actually wanted at that point? Unless you actually wanted her, which is pretty common for a girl who wets her socks, but that's another kind of tomfoolery about her character. Another entire argument is power creep, which came out recently especially on Danheng, but in these games all characters are future-proof, which is a concept people struggle to understand, and a blatant example is Kafka. Kafka's banner didn't sell as much as expected, still a lot of money, but less than Blade is weird. The reasons may be the following: people saved just for her so didn't spend much, it was summer and Fontaine came out, or even worse, DOTS aren't convincing meta-wise, despite the fact that DOTS are probably going to be the most future-proof mechanic if we want to talk about it this way. Every time a character that works with dots, applies them, boosts them, will be an indirect buff to Kafka, making her stronger as the time passes, which is what meta enthusiasts seem to search, but apparently not, or they don't even know what's the deal with them. Seriously. Just now as I'm writing, people are asking themselves if Star Rail is meant to be a side game, whatever that's supposed to mean, because has no hard content, despite the fact that the Swarm disaster is harder than Mach 10. What are they on? What kind of substance? These people would go to Millennia and go, yeah, mid-boss, where's the challenge? To them hard content is either unbeatable or worth their C6 R5 or whatever they get. Then proceed to complain about power creep out of nowhere. People complain about Jing Yuan, one of the best attackers in the game, because it's too slow, but you don't need a character to cycle 0 the MOC. It's possible of course with certain characters, but not something you have to do. The minimum required is like 14 cycles, whether you clear one room in 2 cycles. If one of the teams takes 20 cycles, the problem is not the inability to cycle 0, is the team or even the player. This pressure has even brought some chaos in the R-Genuine main subreddit, where Kafka hot boycotted to avoid having a character that supposedly power crept Jing Yuan, despite the fact that they were completely differently and Kafka doesn't really use her own element that much as she's paired with all kinds of elemental. All of this, all of those complaints, people attacked, fun and hype ruined, and with the approaching of the 3rd Genshin anniversary people still want their free 5-star. I encourage you watching to choose a 5-star that you don't still have and didn't insult in the past years. Some would say Tighnari is the best choice, some may argue that Alhaitham is better, so if it isn't Tighnari, who would you choose at that point for the meta you defend so much and pretend to be respected without giving out respect? If the answer is no one, why then you pretend to have one? Because other gachas give one? If you're so easy to buy and convince, that's a you problem. If you meant a limit 5 stars, then I'll just assume you're insane, because that's just crazy. So, after all of this complaints, the real victim of this is the enjoyment, the players, the voice actors, everyone involved. Everyone just stop having fun, and what remains is just a massive toxicity and negativity, and the games eventually will just die out beforehand. Genshin is about exploring, being free to roam around and find stuff and build characters. Star Rail is about creating strategies and building up characters in a more classical gacha fashion. There can't be a meta. These are not games meant for a meta, for a competition. They're about relaxing, strategizing with what you have and feel satisfied. Having all the same set of characters, everyone pulling and building the same 8 at minimum characters is not fun, neither to watch, neither to play. Sometimes you have to take a break from your main to not burn out. Just pull who you love, you'll find enough supports along the way to clear everything. Pull who you love despite if the role or the meta. Get your favorites as a max priority. Have fun, have the time of your life, and one day you'll remember the experience with nostalgia and love. Happy that you had fun, found friends, memes, Thanks for watching, till next time.